So in A24's most recent horror comedy Y2K, it's taking a look at what would have happened when the clock struck midnight in the year 2000 if all of our technology would have risen up and killed us. And I know that just sounds so ridiculous to anybody who wasn't alive at the time if you're part of the younger generation. There was like a frenzy and a paranoia never experienced before. People thought planes were going to fall out of the sky. They thought our technology was going to kill us. They basically thought we were going to be cavemen again. So what this movie's trying to explore is not really too far from what a lot of people thought reality was going to be when the clock did strike midnight. I don't know, I find it so gullible. So in the movie Y2K, I think they do a really good job of capturing that nostalgia of what it was like growing up in the late 1990s. We don't get a ton of movies focused on the 90s. The 80s have become the golden era of film. That's the era we constantly go back to, almost to a fault now. It feels like we're basically living in the 80s in cinema. But we don't get a lot of 90s movies, and I think this movie does a really good job taking you down memory lane if you did grow up around that time. It really took me back, using AOL Instant Messenger and just burning CDs, using Walkmans. There was a lot of stuff I kind of forgot about. Well, I had a really good time with the nostalgia of it all, and I thought the realism of how this movie did depict the late 90s is better than a lot of movies that have tried to do it before. And I also really appreciate the soundtrack in this one. It does play like a greatest hits collection from the late 90s. And these are a lot of songs that nowadays have become popular again. I think that's kind of funny how that works. The world works in cycles. Unpopular becomes popular and popular becomes unpopular. These songs have all kind of become mainstream again now because my generation, these are like our oldies. That does make me feel old to say. But regardless, I did enjoy the nostalgia of the technology when they're showing it on screen in the soundtrack of this movie. It did feel authentically 90s, and not a lot of movies get that right. But what this movie's about for the most part is actually really simple. You have these two unpopular kids, and the main kid's named Eli, and they want to go to this Y2K party so Eli can meet and date the girl of his dreams. That's right, it sounds like just about every other coming-of-age movie you've probably ever seen, but there's a twist to this one. When the clock does strike midnight in the year 2000, technology starts rising up and fighting back and exterminating all the humans. Now, I have to be transparent. If you're somebody watching this and you're debating whether or not you want to go and see this film, it peaks about 20 minutes in before the robots even come out. There's a scene when Eli's friend puts on the Thong Song by Cisco, and he's hyping everybody up and he's starting to get them to sing to it, and then the beat drops, and if you've ever heard that song, you know what it is. And my entire theater was belting it out loud. It was a full theater. Everybody was singing the Thong Song by Cisco when it started playing. So in my experience, this movie peaks at about 20 minutes. From that point on, when that scene happens, you can just walk out. That's the best it is. So yeah, that's my interpretation. Make your booty go dun dun. All-time classic. This movie kind of plays like Superbad mixed with Zombieland, and I was a little bit disappointed with the comedy, to be honest, because the comedy really didn't land for me. If I had to describe the comedy in this, I would have to say that it kind of sucks shit, yo. And I say it like that because that's kind of the way people talk in this film. It reminded me a lot of Borderlands, not the movie, but the video game. That controversy they're starting to have with that game series where everybody thinks all of the writing is by like a 55-year-old man trying to sound like a really cool 16-year-old, which is kind of ironic because the plot being unpopular kids going to a party full of popular kids, and then the writing feeling like it was by kids who would have been the unpopular kids 40 years ago, reliving the glory days they never had by writing these uncool characters they think are cool. Ultimately, that is where this movie fails. It wants to be a coming-of-age horror comedy, but it's just not funny at all. I laughed like 1 or 2 times in 90 minutes. And even sadder to say, and you guys know I love horror movies, I think this movie works a lot better when it's just a coming-of-age comedy and there's no scary elements. It just doesn't work, It doesn't know if it wants to be a B-horror movie, if it wants to be a coming-of-age tale. It's caught somewhere in the middle, but it's just not funny. It's a very strange movie that doesn't really work for me tonally. I'm somebody who really struggles with comedies like this, because movies that are so stupid, this movie's very stupid, low-hanging fruit humor, like I said, Superbad. But it's also very serious, The end of the world is happening. People are getting killed. They're getting beheaded. There's some gnarly kills and gore in this. But nobody seemingly cares. They're all just kind of joking. And people are saying, yo, what up, man? And then the robot will behead them. It just doesn't make any sense. I really struggle with movies like this. So yeah, the tone of this, the comedy of this, it did not work for me at all. And then we have to talk about the characters. So the main guy, Eli, he's in something else. I don't know what he's from, but I recognized him. I didn't recognize anybody else. And this movie has some of the worst characters of the year, probably. They're all cartoons. They're all caricatures of like a certain archetype in a clique in high school. And that's where they fit into this movie. There's no actual purpose to them being on screen. I really hated all of the characters in this movie, including our lead. He goes to this party and he's after this popular girl, but she's not like all the other popular girls. You know that trope. So you probably know how this movie's going to go and how it's going to end, to be honest, without me even spoiling it. But he goes there and he's after this girl and he's basically in love, but he knows nothing about this girl. He's just staring at it from afar. And his entire character archetype is just staring at this girl pouty from across the room and then kind of getting upset with the fact that she just doesn't love him and doesn't know that he loves her. And it's just weird. Like, go talk to her. Like, it's one of those things I can't get on board with this character because he's just a kind of loser, shy kid. And I understand you're supposed to root for that character. Maybe if you live that life, that's somebody you can really attach to. But I just didn't find anything about his character likable. I didn't find anything about any of these characters likable because the way they're written is just so fake and so cartoony, and his motives are they're just so out of touch. I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you've seen it. I already mentioned that I laughed like once or twice in this movie only, and that's because there were two characters I thought were kind of funny. Not funny overall, but they have funny moments. They both made me laugh once. And this movie makes the decision of killing them both off within 30 seconds of screen time. So any of the funny characters or potentially funny characters you could have to move the story along are just gone. So there's nothing to work with. You're with this pouty kid and this love angle they don't really flesh out, so you don't care about it. Then these two other burnout kids that are just thrown into the mix. They're just kind of the Breakfast Club characters. So you just have nobody you want to spend any time with. They ruined all of their potential within 30 seconds. I did laugh at one of the kids' deaths, I will say, because it was just unexpected. The actual kill is not really that funny. It's just I didn't see it coming, and it was so unexpected they would kill them back to back within 30 seconds. But yeah, this movie probably makes the worst sin ever of removing all of the fun characters. I will say too, when the robots get introduced to this thing, I thought the nostalgia fell off a cliff hard. It's like they kind of forgot what they were doing when it comes to the coming of age 90s thing. Just took the back burner to the robots, and then the robots kind of take the back burner to this love angle. It's all over the place. So there is some decent gore, as I said. There's a couple of kills, a couple of decapitations, some beheadings, mostly CGI, if not all, so it's nothing you're going to really remember. Then when you finally get to the end of this movie in the third act and you spend some time with these characters that are pretty boring for the most part, to be honest, you get to the third act, and this may or may not be a spoiler, so I don't know if this was in the marketing or the trailer or whatever, but the entire third act of this movie is focused on a single cameo, a character I really don't care about because he was not centric to my life at all in the 90s. The whole third act is literally surrounding Fred Durst. Like every scene, he has like a sing-off scene, kind of like the dance-off scene from Guardians of the Galaxy where he's singing to everybody, and it's very weird. It's very cartoony. I don't know why Fred Durst is the entire last 30 minutes of this. Well, obviously, as you can tell, it didn't work for me because I don't care about Limp Bizkit. I don't care about him. And the fact that he just kind of stole this entire movie in the second half, very weird creative choice. There's like an emotional angle that's not emotional at all because you don't care about these characters. I did kind of start laughing at one point because it was so unfunny. You ever watch a movie that's so unfunny, you just start kind of losing your mind, descending into madness? That's kind of where I was at with this movie, where I started laughing at how unfunny the jokes were. But yeah, I really hope A24 doesn't go down the same wormhole as Blumhouse after watching this one where they're making schlocky, low-hanging fruit B horror comedies. I don't know, this one didn't work for me at all, but it's just a very strange thing for A24 of all studios to make this movie. Acting in this movie, okay, I guess. Nothing really asked of them. I really didn't like any of the characters. Afraid to commit to the bit of the B horror element with the robots. It's not funny as a coming of age tale. You don't care about these characters. You don't care about this love angle. This movie's background noise. So if you have seen Y2K, comment down below. Let me know what you think. Did the comedy work for you? Did it not? What's your favorite A24 movie? As always, subscribe. Join me down below, but that's all I got. Peace.